The biggest problem most of us face with routines is this: we don't know where to start. We want a winning routine, something that actually helps us win the day, but instead we cobble together random hacks from podcasts, TikToks, or whatever guru yells the loudest. People have been building winning routines for centuries, and some of them got it right. Your daily routine is the script of your life. It decides whether you win or lose. Every single day, you're rehearsing something, and over time, that script becomes your story. So today we're going to examine one of the most famous daily routines ever recorded. It belonged to none other than Benjamin Franklin, inventor, diplomat, printer, philosopher, and one of the most disciplined men of his age. This is the routine Franklin lived by. Every hour accounted for, every day framed by two questions. What good shall I do today? And what good have I done today? As I explored this old routine, I discovered some things that don't work. But there was one thing in particular that I think we should include in our winning core routine. Every single time. Now, full confession, I'm not the first to try Franklin's schedule. Some young whippersnappers have made vlogs where they live his routine for a week, drink tea by candlelight, and tell you how hard it is to wake up by 5 a.m. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm not just copying Franklin for entertainment. I'm examining his routine with one purpose: to understand what makes it work, what makes it win, and what we can borrow to give our own routines the best chance of achieving our dreams. It's different than 1750 today. Now, if we had time, I'd rent myself a powdered wig, silk stockings, and live like old Ben for a day just to make this more entertaining. But alas, we're traveling, so instead I'll spare you the costume. Though, fair warning, you may hear a few phrases of colonial English along the way. So I put Franklin's routine to the test. What happens when you take an 18th century schedule and live it today? Franklin's routine begins at 5 o'clock sharp. His motto, early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Now, healthy and wealthy, maybe, but wise? I don't know. At 5 in the morning, I'm usually wise enough to still be asleep.
In show business, 5 a.m. has a technical term. It's called stupid o'clock.
What are you doing?
Go back to bed. Pray, who doth cook eggs before the rooster crows? Verily, I think Benjamin's routine was invented by someone who hated his wife. Forsooth, the clattering of frying pan before the 6th hour hath awakened her most unkindly.
And here is the first modern problem: attention. By 5:05, Franklin's day is pristine. It's orderly. By 5:05 today, my phone is already buzzing with news alerts, emails, and notifications Franklin never had to battle. The routine collapses if you let the digital world in too soon. Franklin's morning question, what good shall I do today? This is the part that really works. It pulls your focus towards virtue, not vanity, towards contribution, not comparison. If you put your dream at the center, it becomes a filter for what is actually good today. From 8 till noon, Franklin worked. He called it prosecute the present study. 4 hours of focus. And this is where you notice another difference between 1750 and today. Franklin didn't have email, Slack, text messages, or TikTok. He wasn't prosecuting his present study while 20 digital jurors prosecuted his attention. Our attention spans are shredded compared to his world. In Franklin's time, the only notification you might get is the bellman ringing at the tavern, and that one you could ignore. At noon, Franklin paused to eat and look over accounts. At first glance, we assume that this is business accounts. But why do that here? Why not look at them in the morning or afternoon routines? I think Franklin was doing something smarter. I think he wasn't just checking numbers. He was taking account. At the halfway point of the day, he's asking, am I actually on track? Am I accomplishing what I said I would? This is a built-in noon hour reset. A checkpoint we almost never do now. The afternoon is just another solid block of work. In theory, it makes sense. 2 halves of the day, each focused on progress. But again, no line breaks, no recovery. Today we know that attention tanks after about 90 minutes. Franklin didn't have neuroscience, but we do. From 6 to 9, Franklin tidied up. He puts things in their places, and then allowed time for diversion, conversation, or music. That's smart. Franklin wasn't just a work machine. He knew the value of balance.
Hark, gentle friends, dost thou wish to converse with me over the dulcet tones of the harpsichord? Or maybe I should just play my guitar instead.
His day ends the same way it began, with a question. What good have I done today? And this is beautiful. A lovely bookend. Morning, intention, evening, reflection. Even if the rest of the schedule breaks down, this is worth keeping. Franklin ended his day with sleep at 10 p.m. Early to bed, early to rise. A rhythm most of us desperately need, but resist. Sleep is the cheapest performance enhancer in the world, and Franklin had it right. So living Franklin's routine for a day, what did I learn? The questions are timeless, the order is brilliant, but the schedule as a whole, today it collapses under distraction. So let's break it down and rebuild it for today, because that's where the real magic happens. So we'll talk about what worked in the moment. But first, let's be honest, this thing has some problems. Let's talk about them quickly before you fall asleep like it's history class. Number one is the time blocks are too long. 4 hours of straight work with no breaks. Franklin called it prosecuting the present study, but by hour 3, I was prosecuting sanity. Science tells us that focus tanks after 90 minutes, which explains why by 11 a.m. I was Googling, can coffee be injected intravenously? Number 2, lack of specificity. This says work. That's it. Not what work, not how, just work. It's like writing be successful on your calendar. Thanks, Ben. Super clear and helpful. Number 3 are seasonal blind spots. This routine might work in Philadelphia, tinkering in his workshop, but when Franklin was in Paris charming diplomats, zero chance. This is a growth and maintenance routine, not a performance routine. Different seasons demand different protocols. Number 4, there was no performance mode. Speaking, debating, and negotiating peace treaties, those are performance days. But Franklin's chart doesn't flex for that. It would be like showing up to the Olympics and saying, sorry guys, this is my 4-hour study block. 5, digital discipline, which is a modern gap. Franklin never faced a single notification. The only alert he got was a town crier yelling about runaway cows. Today, if you don't gate your tech, this whole routine collapses before breakfast. And 6, joy as optional. Franklin put music and conversation way at the end, like a little treat. But joy and wonder aren't treats, they're fuel. So if you don't make room for them, your routine becomes a treadmill to nowhere. 7, identity blindness. Franklin asked, what good shall I do today? But never, who am I becoming? Without identity shaping, routines risk keeping you busy without really making you better. 8, rigidity. This thing is carved like stone tablets. There's no flexibility and no adaptability. Now, life happens. Kids get sick. Flights get delayed. Sometimes your wife just doesn't appreciate eggs at 5:30 in the morning. A routine should be a system, not a prism. So yes, Franklin was a genius, but if you try to copy this routine today, it collapses. The good news is that it's not hard to fix. Let's talk about what Franklin got right and why some of his genius is still worth stealing. The first is book-ended questions. The morning, what good shall I do today? In the evening, what good have I done today? This is not a to-do list. This is a filter. It forces you to start with intention and end with reflection, and that's wisdom. Forget the apps, forget the hacks. If you only lived by these 2 questions, you'd probably change your life. At noon, Franklin said he would read or overlook my accounts. Now sure, he probably meant business accounts, but I think it is deeper than that. I think he was taking account of the day, like a halftime reset. Am I on track or am I drifting? Meanwhile, at my noon check-in, I usually ask how many tacos is too many tacos. Franklin was doing better. 3 are intentional work blocks. The long blocks may be unrealistic for us, but the principle is genius. Franklin didn't scatter his attention across 20 things. He batched, he focused, and that's still a winning move. And of course, his famous motto, early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Up before distractions, bed before trouble. Or as my mom put it, nothing good ever happens after midnight. And she wasn't wrong. And 5 is the evening balance. Franklin also protected space for joy, music, conversation, and diversion. He wasn't just grinding, he built rhythm into his day. That's balance that most of us often forget. And finally, order. Every piece of his day had a place. So yes, Franklin's routine had flaws, but it also had absolute genius. The bookended questions, the noon reset, the intentional work, early to bed and early to rise, and balance. That's all worth keeping. The trick is how to take these timeless things and adapt them for today, which is exactly what we're going to do. So this is where it all comes together. We're not studying Franklin's routine because I secretly want to live in the 1700s, though those wigs were pretty fly. We're studying it for clues because our daily routine is a script of our lives. It's a core routine that governs all others. A core routine is like your operating system for your life. It sits above everything else. Work routines, family routines, and fitness routines, it tells them all how to run. A core routine gives you focus. It says, here are the 1 or 2 things that if you do them, you will win the day. And when you win the day, you could win the week. And when you win the week, you could win the month. And when you win the month, you could win the season. And if you string enough winning seasons together, you're going to find yourself on the podium. Franklin started his day with, what good should I do today? And that's timeless. We will keep it. But let's add a little clarity for our modern age. Let's ask, what would winning the day look like today? Now, when we look at the morning work block, Franklin gave himself 4 hours of work. And it's admirable, but it's way too long. Today, we need to break it down into 90-minute deep work sprints with line breaks in between. We can't just push forward through 4 hours straight, except in the very rarest of moments. You win the day by stacking focused sprints, not by grinding yourself into the ground. At noon, Franklin looked over accounts. For us, that's not QuickBooks. It's a check-in. Am I actually on track to win the day, or am I drifting? The afternoon, Franklin worked again. We upgrade that to an applied work block. Still focus, but directly tied to the win condition of the day. And that is what we set in the morning, understanding what the win condition of the day is. We're not going to win all the things that we could imagine, but if we imagine one thing that we could win at, we are likely to achieve it. This is where you push the dream forward, not just a series of tasks, but traction, because you're connecting it to that early question you asked at the beginning of the day. Franklin gave space for music and conversation, and that's good, but he treated it a bit like dessert. For us, recovery and wonder aren't extras, they're fuel. They keep tomorrow's win possible. So maybe you might even move some of that into a line break during your work session. Franklin ended with, what good have I done today? We keep that spirit, but we frame it as, did I win the day today? And then name it, how did I win the day today? And if the answer is yes, then fantastic. But if the answer is no, then reset. Tomorrow's your next chance to win. And finally, sleep. Franklin said early to bed, early to rise. And that hasn't changed. In fact, in today's world, it might be the biggest advantage you could have. Sleep is still the cheapest performance enhancer in the world. However, we need to take into account that some of us are more optimal later in the evening than earlier in the day. I'm one of those people. I'm super creative between 9 and midnight. So I would just push the time frame around, understanding that my early isn't 5 a.m., it's a little bit later. Also, the whole reason I got into working for myself is so I didn't have to wake up at 5 a.m. because I am not a morning person. It's like the freedom that I want. I want to wake up when I feel optimal. So my early to rise would be more like 7. So what do we keep? We keep the questions, the reflection, the order. And what do we add? Shorter, focused sprints, a noon check-in, digital discipline, space for recovery, and most of all, the clarity of knowing what it means to win the day. That's Franklin adapted for today. We don't look at Franklin's routine or anyone's routine to cosplay history. We look for clues. We study what worked for others so we can adapt their winning routines to our own. In Franklin's case, there is a lot of takeaways: order, reflection, balance, intentional work, all worth considering. But the one I'm adapting immediately is how the day starts and how the day ends. Setting your intention in the morning and naming what the win looks like for your core routine. And then at night asking, did I win the day? Because most of us, we wander aimlessly through the day. We get pulled by distractions, pulled by noise. And if you just did this one thing, name your win and measure against it, I know your whole life is going to change. I think I'll skip the eggs at 5:30 a.m. thing. I'm not really ready to eat them anyway, and I know my wife is not ready for the rather noisy cooking methods. So I'll leave you with Franklin's own words. Lost time is never found again. Don't lose the day. Win it.